The house was alive with laughter and the clinking of glasses as my family gathered for the annual reunion. I stood in the kitchen, watching my relatives mingle, their voices blending into a comforting hum. It was a familiar scene, one filled with warmth and nostalgia. Yet, as I poured myself another glass of sangria, I couldn't shake off the feeling of disconnection. My husband, seated comfortably in the living room, seemed absorbed in his conversation with my brother, leaving me to navigate the crowd alone. As I stepped outside for some fresh air, I spotted my nephew across the yard. He was leaning against a tree, laughing with some cousins. There was something about his smile that caught me off guard. It had a charm that felt new and unsettling. I quickly looked away, chastising myself for even noticing. He was 20 years younger than me, just a boy in many ways, but that charm lingered in my thoughts like an uninvited guest. The evening progressed and more drinks flowed. My husband's indifference gnawed at me as I watched him joke with others while I stood on the periphery. In the back of my mind, I could feel an urge to reclaim something, perhaps attention or validation, that had slipped through my fingers over the years. It was then that my nephew caught my gaze again. This time he smiled directly at me, and my heart skipped a beat before I quickly turned away. "Hey, Aunt Maria. Want to join us?" he called out suddenly, breaking through my internal monologue. His voice was light and carefree, it beckoned me closer like a moth drawn to flame. Against my better judgment, I found myself moving toward him. We shared stories and laughter under the stars that night. The atmosphere felt charged yet innocent as we reminisced about childhood memories, playing hide-and-seek in this very yard or stealing cookies from the kitchen when no one was looking. Each shared laugh drew us closer together until it felt as if we were alone in our little world amid the family chaos surrounding us. Suddenly, someone proposed a toast to family ties and cherished moments. As we raised our glasses high, I couldn't help but notice how he looked at me, his eyes sparkling with mischief and something deeper that sent shivers down my spine. The moment stretched out longer than it should have before we both brought our glasses to our lips. "Cheers," everyone echoed around us. But just as quickly as it began, reality came crashing back when my husband walked over, interrupting our moment of connection with an indifferent comment about needing more chips for the salsa. My heart sank slightly as he pulled me back into conversations filled with mundane chatter. As night fell deeper and laughter continued to echo through the house, I found myself retreating once again into thoughts of what had transpired earlier, the way his gaze lingered on mine or how easily we had slipped into comfortable banter after so many years apart. But beneath that ease lay an undercurrent of tension that left me unsettled. I excused myself from yet another conversation and wandered back outside for air once more. The cool breeze kissed my skin as I leaned against the porch railing, lost in thought until footsteps approached behind me. "Mind if I join you?" he asked softly. I nodded without turning around, somehow knowing who it was without needing to look. Confirmed what had been building between us all night long, a connection tinged with something forbidden yet intoxicatingly real. "What do you think they'd say if they knew?" he mused lightly, but his tone hinted at seriousness beneath his playful facade. I chuckled nervously, "Probably nothing good." His laughter mingled with mine before fading into silence filled only by distant music from inside and crickets chirping outside, a moment suspended between what should be and what could never be openly acknowledged among family members. But then again, what if? The thought hung there unspoken like an unanswered question between us, a dangerous proposition waiting for someone to take hold of it first. In that moment of vulnerability shared under starlit skies surrounded by loved ones oblivious to our quiet exchange, a choice loomed ahead. Would we dare explore these feelings further or retreat back into safety where nothing would change? Before either of us could respond fully though, the sudden sound of raised voices erupted from within, breaking our reverie completely, startling us both back into reality where family dynamics shifted unpredictably every second, and where secrets carried heavy consequences when exposed under scrutiny. "Maria! Come help!" My brother's voice cut through the night like a knife, demanding attention, urgently pulling me away from thoughts better left untouched, for now. I stepped back into the bustling kitchen, the warmth of the family gathering wrapping around me like a familiar blanket. The laughter and chatter felt comforting, yet my heart raced with the memory of what had just transpired. I caught a glimpse of my nephew across the room, his smile still lingering in my mind. "Can you chop these vegetables?" My sister-in-law handed me a knife, her brow furrowed in concentration as she stirred a pot on the stove. I nodded, trying to focus on the task at hand. The aroma of garlic filled the air, mixing with the sound of clinking glasses and distant music. As I worked, I couldn't shake off our earlier moment. A shared laugh had turned into something more profound, something I hadn't anticipated. We kissed, echoed in my thoughts like a whisper that refused to fade away. It was reckless and thrilling, yet filled with an undercurrent of guilt that gnawed at me. "Maria." My brother called again, his voice rising above the noise as he entered the kitchen. "Have you seen the kids? They're supposed to help with dessert." He looked at me expectantly while juggling a stack of plates. "I think they went outside," I replied quickly, hoping he wouldn't notice my distraction. The last thing I wanted was for him to sense that something was off. Just then, as if orchestrated by fate, my nephew stepped into the kitchen behind my brother. Our eyes met briefly before he turned his attention to his father. The air felt thick with unspoken words between us. It was hard to breathe amidst this family chaos. "Did you have fun out there?" my brother asked casually while placing plates on the counter. "Yeah," my nephew replied, but his gaze flickered back to me for just a moment longer than necessary. I felt warmth rise in my cheeks as I recalled how we had almost crossed an invisible line. Suddenly, laughter erupted from the other room, drawing everyone's attention momentarily away from our small exchange. It was easy to forget about everything when surrounded by family, yet harder still when secrets lingered beneath every smile. "Let's finish up here so we can join them," my sister-in-law urged, breaking through my thoughts again as she handed me another task, a simple dessert assembly that required little thought but demanded focus nonetheless. I forced myself to concentrate on layering cream and fruit in a glass dish while stealing glances at my nephew who stood nearby helping his father arrange chairs for dinner. Each glance sent a thrill through me, accompanied by guilt that twisted in knots within my stomach. After what felt like an eternity, dinner was finally served and we gathered around the long table adorned with vibrant dishes and warm bread rolls. Conversations flowed freely as stories were exchanged, everyone eager to reconnect after time apart. Yet amid all this warmth and laughter lay an unsettling tension between us. The knowledge that we had crossed boundaries we shouldn't have even approached lingered like an uninvited guest at our gathering. As dinner progressed and glasses were raised for toasts celebrating family unity, I caught my nephew's eye again across the table. He smiled softly before looking down at his plate as if trying to suppress thoughts too complex for this moment. "Here's to family," my brother declared loudly before taking a hearty sip from his glass filled with red wine, a gesture mirrored by everyone present except me. Instead, I sipped on water, trying desperately not to drown in emotions swirling around me. Once dinner ended and dishes were cleared away, I found myself seeking solitude again, an escape from prying eyes and probing questions about life choices or future plans that seemed irrelevant now more than ever. I slipped out into the backyard where cool evening air wrapped around me like a soothing balm against heated exchanges inside. It felt good being outside alone, if only for a moment, to breathe without pretense or expectation hanging over me. As I leaned against an old oak tree watching fireflies dance in twilight shadows creeping across grass, footsteps approached quietly behind me, breaking through silence unexpectedly. It was him again. My heart raced at seeing him alone here now, away from prying eyes of relatives inside. "I thought you might need some fresh air too," he said softly, standing beside me without crossing any lines just yet but close enough that our shoulders brushed slightly, a spark igniting between us once more despite all reason urging caution instead. "I do," I admitted feeling vulnerable yet strangely empowered by this connection we shared, one that defied logic but felt undeniably real amidst chaos surrounding us both right now. In that moment under starlit skies where whispers hung heavy like secrets waiting patiently for release, I realized how easy it would be for us if only circumstances were different, but they weren't. They never could be without consequences looming large over every decision made henceforth. Just then, a loud crash echoed from inside, shattering our fragile bubble, abruptly pulling us back into reality where families clashed over trivial matters amidst laughter fading quickly into discomfort, once more leaving everything unresolved hanging precariously above us, both like storm clouds threatening rain without warning. I turned, startled, as the sound of broken glass shattered the moment. Inside the house, voices rose in a familiar mix of laughter and frustration. I felt a pang of guilt wash over me, knowing that our secret moments were becoming harder to justify. The weight of our shared laughter lingered in the air, but so did the consequences of what we had begun. Maybe we should go back, I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, but I could see the reluctance etched on his face. We both understood that returning meant stepping back into the roles we played within our families. The warmth of our connection felt like a fragile thread, one that could snap at any moment. As we made our way back inside, I caught snippets of conversations that felt all too familiar. My sister was arguing with her husband about something trivial while my mother tried to mediate. It was all so typical, a family gathering filled with unspoken tensions and hidden resentments. I glanced at him, and our eyes met for a brief second. It was enough to remind me of our secret bond. "Do you remember when we used to play in Grandma's backyard?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my thoughts. The nostalgia in his voice drew me closer again. We spent hours building those forts out of old sheets. I smiled at the memory, it felt like another lifetime ago. "Yes. And you always insisted on being the king," I replied with a chuckle. He laughed softly, and for a moment, it felt as if we were just two kids lost in time instead of two adults tangled in something forbidden. Then he leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "I've thought about those days often." His gaze was intense, and I could sense his feelings swirling beneath the surface as feelings that mirrored my own. Just then, a voice cut through our moment. "What are you two whispering about?" My cousin's sudden appearance made us jump apart like guilty children caught in mischief. The tension shifted instantly as she eyed us suspiciously before moving on to join another group. "Close call," I murmured, feeling my heart race from both surprise and relief. Yet beneath it all lingered an unsettling truth: someone might be onto us. As the evening progressed, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. Every laugh seemed louder than before, every glance felt laden with suspicion. I found myself retreating into memories again, of childhood summers spent together without care or consequence. But reality crashed down when he took my hand under the table during dinner, a simple gesture that sent electric shocks through me despite its innocence. We kissed, he whispered between bites of food while everyone else chatted away obliviously. My heart raced at his words. They hung between us like an unspoken promise and threat all at once. The guilt returned full force as I recalled my family's expectations, the weight of tradition pressing down on me like an anchor dragging me into murky waters. "Stop," I hissed softly but firmly enough for him to understand this wasn't just playful banter anymore. This was dangerous territory we were treading upon together. He withdrew slightly but didn't let go completely, his fingers still brushed against mine under the tablecloth, a reminder of what we shared even amid family chaos. Later that night, after dinner had ended and dishes were being cleared away, we found ourselves alone once more outside on the porch, the cool night air wrapping around us like a comforting blanket while stars twinkled overhead as if witnessing our plight. "We need to talk about this," he said, suddenly looking serious now, no longer playful or light-hearted as before, but heavy with meaning instead. "I know," I replied quietly, even though dread settled deep within me. There was no easy way forward from here. only uncertainty looming ahead filled with potential heartbreak for us both if things continued down this path without caution or care taken into account first. We can't keep pretending nothing's happening, he pressed further while searching my eyes for answers only time would reveal eventually either way regardless how much either one wanted otherwise right now too. Just then, a loud shout erupted from inside drawing our attention back toward where family members had gathered again. This time louder than before as emotions flared up unexpectedly among them all causing chaos once more spilling out onto every corner nearby without warning. What is going on? I asked nervously glancing toward him for reassurance but finding only uncertainty reflected back at me instead, his expression mirroring mine perfectly showing how fragile everything truly felt right now amid such turmoil surrounding us both constantly threatening everything we'd built together already over these past few years. The chaotic energy from inside the house spilled into the yard, pulling us back to reality. I could hear Aunt Maria's voice rising above the others, her frustration palpable. My heart raced as I wondered if our secret moments had been noticed, if anyone sensed the tension that crackled between us. Let's go check it out, he suggested, his voice low but firm. I nodded, feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. We walked toward the commotion, trying to blend in with the crowd of relatives gathered around a heated discussion about family finances. As we approached, I caught snippets of their argument, something about an inheritance and old grievances resurfacing. It felt like a storm brewing in the distance, one that could easily sweep us all away if we weren't careful. I glanced at him and saw concern etched on his face. Maybe we should step outside, he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. The idea of escaping the chaos was tempting, but I hesitated. The weight of familial expectations loomed large over us, anchoring me to this moment while simultaneously suffocating any chance of clarity. Finally, we slipped away to the porch, where the air was cooler and quieter. What do you think? He asked, looking out at the darkening sky as if seeking answers in its depths. We can't keep pretending nothing's happening. His words hung between us like a fragile thread ready to snap. I know, I replied softly, feeling torn between desire and duty. But what about everyone else? They'll never understand. Just then, a loud crash echoed from inside, the sound of glass shattering, sending both of us jumping back in surprise. What was that? He said sharply, eyes wide with alarm. My stomach twisted at the thought of what might have happened inside. We exchanged a glance filled with unspoken fears before heading back into the fray. Inside, chaos reigned supreme as family members rushed to clean up the mess while others continued their heated debate. I spotted my husband in the corner talking to Uncle Joe. His expression was tense as he gestured animatedly about something important. I need to check on him, I said abruptly, pulling away from my nephew's side despite my reluctance to leave him alone in this whirlwind of emotions. As I approached my husband, he noticed me immediately and offered a strange smile that didn't reach his eyes. Everything okay? He asked casually, but there was an edge to his tone that made me uneasy. Just checking in, I replied carefully. His gaze flicked toward my nephew for just a moment before returning to me with a questioning look. Right, he said slowly as if weighing his words carefully. You've been spending a lot of time together lately. My heart sank. It felt like an accusation hanging heavy in the air between us. We're just catching up, I defended weakly, knowing full well how flimsy that sounded given our recent history. Sure, he replied curtly before turning back to Uncle Joe without another word. A knot tightened in my stomach. It was clear he wasn't convinced by my flimsy explanation. I stepped back into the crowd where laughter mingled with tension still buzzing around us like static electricity waiting for a spark to ignite it all again. My nephew caught my eye from across the room and gave me an encouraging nod. It felt like an unspoken promise amidst all this chaos. Later that evening, after dinner had settled down somewhat and people were dispersing into smaller groups or heading home for good, he found me again outside on the porch where we could finally breathe without interruption. We need to talk, he said firmly but gently this time as he stepped closer into my space so there was no one else around but us two under twinkling stars overhead casting faint light across our faces illuminating everything unsaid between us recently. I know, I admitted quietly feeling both exhilarated yet terrified at what lay ahead for us now that boundaries were being crossed more than ever before since those first stolen kisses under dim lights earlier. We spent la noche juntos last week. It felt right then. His voice trailed off as uncertainty clouded his features again making me question everything once more too especially when family obligations weighed so heavily upon our hearts now threatening everything we had built slowly over these past 2 years together already. But just then, a loud shout erupted from inside again drawing our attention back toward where family members had gathered once more. This time louder than before as emotions flared up unexpectedly among them all causing chaos once more spilling out onto every corner nearby without warning. "What is going on?" I asked nervously glancing toward him for reassurance but finding only uncertainty reflected back at me instead. His expression mirroring mine perfectly showing how fragile everything truly felt right now amid such turmoil surrounding us both constantly threatening everything we'd built together already over these past few years. The chaos around us intensified, voices rising as family members argued about trivial matters. I could feel my heart racing, anxiety creeping in as I glanced at my nephew. He looked just as lost as I felt. The warmth we had shared moments ago felt distant now, overshadowed by the tension enveloping us. "Should we go inside?" he suggested, his voice barely audible over the commotion. I nodded, needing to escape the uncertainty outside. We slipped into the house, the noise muffled but still present. The familiar scent of my sister's cooking hung in the air, but it did little to calm my nerves. Once inside, we found a quiet corner where we could talk without interruption. "I've been thinking about our conversations," he began cautiously, his eyes searching mine for understanding. "What if we took this further? Just for a little while longer?" I hesitated. The weight of our secret felt heavier than before. "But what if someone finds out?" I replied, knowing that fear was a constant shadow in our lives now. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as though sharing a forbidden secret. "No one has to know if we're careful." His words sent a shiver down my spine, a mix of thrill and dread. Just then, I noticed a familiar face peering through the window, someone who had always had an uncanny ability to sense when things were amiss. "Do you think she saw us?" I asked nervously, glancing back at him. His expression turned serious. "We need to be discreet," he said firmly, but I could see the flicker of worry in his eyes too. As the evening wore on and family members continued their raucous celebrations elsewhere in the house, I found myself drawn back into our conversation. We exchanged messages hidden within casual remarks and laughter, each one laced with unspoken feelings that only seemed to grow stronger with every shared moment. Then he dropped a bombshell, "I'm moving away soon." My heart sank at his words, it felt like everything was unraveling before me. "My job is relocating me next month," he explained with resignation. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, feeling a wave of panic wash over me. "I didn't want to ruin what we have," he replied quietly. Just then, laughter erupted from outside again, this time mixed with shouts of joy rather than anger, and it reminded me of how fragile our situation was amidst all this familial chaos. But beneath that laughter lurked suspicion from our family friend who had caught glimpses of our interactions over the years and was now looking more closely than ever. "We have to be careful," I reiterated softly but firmly as dread settled heavily in my stomach like a stone. As if sensing my fear, he reached out and squeezed my hand reassuringly for just a moment before pulling away again, an act so simple yet so loaded with meaning that it left me breathless. How could something so innocent feel so wrong? Our conversation shifted back toward lighter topics, memories from childhood that made us laugh, but beneath it all lingered an undeniable tension that neither of us could ignore any longer. Finally, Just when it seemed like we might find some semblance of peace amid this storm, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, interrupting our moment together. It was a message from home. Something urgent had come up that required my immediate attention. "I have to take this," I murmured reluctantly, stepping away as his gaze followed mine with concern etched across his features. As I read the message, a family emergency involving my husband, the weight of reality crashed down on me like cold water splashing against bare skin after an afternoon spent under warm sun rays at the beach. "Can you give me a minute?" I asked him quickly before hurrying outside, where voices still clamored loudly among relatives gathered around their drinks and stories once more, every sound now echoing ominously in contrast to what lay ahead for both of us. With each step away from him feeling heavier than before, I couldn't shake off that sense of impending doom looming over everything we'd built together already. I leaned against the cool exterior of the house, trying to steady my breath. The night air was thick with the scent of grilled meats and laughter, yet I felt utterly isolated. My mind raced as I replayed the events leading up to this moment. We had crossed so many lines already, and now it felt like we were teetering on the edge of something irreversible. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping outside after me. His voice held a mix of concern and something deeper that made my heart race. I nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at me. I wanted to confide in him about my fears, but instead, I forced a smile. "I just need a moment," I replied, trying to sound casual. He moved closer, our shoulders almost touching as we stood in silence. The warmth radiating from him was comforting yet dangerous. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and glanced at the screen. My husband's name flashed before me. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I hesitated to answer. What if he sensed something was off? "I should take this," I said, trying to mask my anxiety. "Sure," he said softly, stepping back but not taking his eyes off me. My heart raced as I answered the call. "Hey," I said cautiously. "Where are you?" he asked sharply. "Everyone's looking for you." "I'm outside for a bit," I replied, glancing at my nephew who was now watching me intently. "Come back inside, it's getting late," he insisted. There was an edge to his voice that made my stomach churn. "I'll be there in a minute," I promised before hanging up abruptly. As I turned back to him, the weight of the conversation hung heavily between us. "We should go back," he suggested quietly, but something in his tone felt different, urgent yet resigned. "I know," I whispered, but deep down, part of me wanted to stay right where we were, hidden from prying eyes and judgmental gazes. As we lingered outside, we exchanged nervous glances that spoke volumes more than words could convey. The thrill of our secret felt intoxicating yet terrifying all at once, a dangerous dance on the edge of ruin. Then came another buzz from my phone, this time a text message from an unknown number. My heart sank further as curiosity battled with dread. What if it's someone who knows? I thought anxiously. "Who is it?" he asked gently, his curiosity piqued by my sudden change in demeanor. "I don't know," I admitted reluctantly before opening the message. "We need to talk about what's happening." Panic surged through me. This could only mean trouble. "What does it say?" His voice was low but insistent as he stepped closer again. "It's complicated," I stammered, unsure how much to reveal without raising alarm bells in his mind or mine. He frowned slightly but didn't press further. Instead, he reached out and took my hand gently in his, a small gesture that sent shockwaves through me despite everything else swirling around us. "We can figure this out together," he assured me softly. But could we really? The weight of our choices hung heavy over both of us like storm clouds ready to burst open at any moment. Just then, laughter erupted from inside. The sound jolted me back into reality like a cold splash of water on a hot day. It reminded me how precarious our situation truly was. One wrong move could unravel everything we had tried so hard to keep hidden. "We should go back now," he urged again with urgency lacing his tone this time around. Okay, I murmured reluctantly as we started walking back toward the house together, each step heavy with unspoken words and unresolved feelings that would only grow more complicated if left unchecked for long. As we entered the crowded room filled with family members oblivious to our turmoil outside moments ago, I caught sight of my husband across the space talking animatedly with relatives while glancing toward us occasionally as if sensing something amiss without knowing exactly what it might be. The tension between us felt palpable even amid laughter and chatter surrounding us. It was like an invisible thread connecting our fates together while also threatening to snap at any moment if pulled too tightly or too far apart. Then came another buzz from my phone again, a new message lighting up the screen demanding attention once more. You can't keep hiding forever. A chill ran down my spine. Whoever this was seemed determined to expose everything we'd tried so hard to conceal. In that instant realization struck hard. I couldn't just ignore what lay ahead anymore. Choices had consequences whether or not they were acknowledged openly, and soon enough those consequences would catch up with us both whether we liked it or not. The weight of the message hung over me like a dark cloud. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. I had been living in a bubble, thinking our secret was safe. But that message shattered my illusion of control. I glanced at my husband, who was talking to my sister across the room, oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside me. I took a deep breath and stepped outside onto the porch, seeking solace in the cool evening air. The familiar sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifted from inside, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. My nephew had mentioned moving back home soon, and that news weighed heavily on my mind. Would it mean an end to our secret encounters? Or would it complicate things further? A sudden rustle in the bushes caught my attention. It was him, my nephew, leaning against the porch railing with a concerned look on his face. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was convincing either of us. "I got a message," I confessed, feeling exposed under his gaze. "Someone knows." His expression shifted from concern to alarm as he processed what I'd just said. "What do you mean?" he pressed, stepping closer. "Someone is threatening to expose us," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. The reality of our situation crashed over me like waves against the shore. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly troubled by the implications of this revelation. "I can't let that happen," he said firmly, determination flashing in his eyes. "We need to figure this out." "But how?" The thought of confronting this unknown threat sent shivers down my spine. As we stood there in silence, contemplating our next steps, my husband's laughter rang out from inside. It felt like a cruel reminder of everything we stood to lose if our secret came tumbling out into the open. Just then, my sister stepped onto the porch with a puzzled look on her face. "Is everything all right?" she asked, glancing between us with suspicion. My heart raced as I exchanged quick glances with my nephew. We both knew we couldn't let her find out what was really going on. "Just getting some fresh air," I replied too quickly, forcing a smile that felt brittle on my lips. She nodded but lingered longer than necessary before returning inside. Once alone again with him, tension filled the air between us once more. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly, anxiety etched on his face. "We need to be careful," I warned him softly but firmly. "If someone knows about us, it changes everything." He nodded slowly as if absorbing each word carefully. Then came another buzz from my phone, a new message demanding attention again. "You can't keep hiding forever." This time dread settled deep in my stomach. Whoever this was seemed more determined than ever to expose us both. "Who is it?" he asked tightly as panic flared in his eyes again. "I don't know," I admitted helplessly as fear clawed at me like a wild animal desperate for freedom. We were walking on thin ice. One wrong move could send everything crashing down around us. Suddenly an idea struck me amidst the chaos swirling around us. Maybe if we confronted whoever was behind these messages directly. What if we meet them? I suggested hesitantly. His expression shifted from worry to disbelief at first before settling into contemplation. It wasn't an easy solution, but perhaps it could work, if we were smart about it. Are you sure about that? He asked cautiously after weighing options silently for what felt like ages before finally responding aloud again. Uncertainty lingered thickly still between us even amidst newfound determination building together slowly yet steadily too over time now. Yes, I replied firmly despite every instinct screaming otherwise within me still deep down somewhere buried beneath layers upon layers built up over years gone by already too long ago now anyway altogether somehow still here. Together still even after all this time passed since those early days long before everything changed forever between us both now too far gone past any point return left anymore either way left behind lost forevermore perhaps too late already now anyway altogether still. Here together somehow yet again here facing whatever came next ahead too uncertainly so soon still ahead waiting patiently just beyond sight somewhere waiting patiently looming large ahead looming ever closer still looming larger than life itself always waiting patiently just beyond reach forevermore awaiting their moment finally arrive at last. In that moment of shared resolve amidst uncertainty swirling all around us still lingering close enough nearby just outside reach waiting patiently there together side by side facing whatever came next ahead uncertainly so soon still ahead looming ever closer. Waiting patiently looming larger than life itself always waiting patiently just beyond reach forevermore awaiting their moment finally arrive at last. The doors swung open abruptly behind us again suddenly breaking silence abruptly interrupting thoughts swirling around inside heads spinning wildly trying grasp hold something solid ground beneath feet once more instead slipping away into nothingness drifting off. Somewhere far away lost entirely far away never returning home again lost forevermore perhaps too late already now anyway altogether still here together somehow yet again here facing whatever came next ahead uncertainly so soon still. Ahead looming ever closer. What's going on? My sister's voice cut through our moment sharply once more breaking spell cast upon both trapped within silence held tightly together instead now suddenly broken apart completely disconnected entirely pulled apart once more unceremoniously interrupted without warning leaving nothing behind except lingering questions unanswered hanging heavy above heads like storm clouds gathering darkening skies threatening rain down upon all below caught unaware unprepared for what lay ahead waiting patiently. Lurking just beyond sight somewhere waiting quietly hidden away until called forth finally when least expected catching everyone off guard completely unprepared ready strike without mercy whatsoever. I think we should go inside for now. He suggested quietly breaking silence once more shifting focus away from impending confrontation looming closer while trying regain composure lost somewhere along way perhaps never truly found again anyway either way left behind lost forevermore perhaps too late already now anyway altogether still here together somehow yet again here facing whatever came next ahead uncertainly so soon still ahead looming ever closer. The tension in the air felt palpable as I stood there, heart racing. We need to talk, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, understanding the weight of our unspoken words. The family gathering continued around us, laughter and chatter filling the room, but we were worlds apart. As we slipped into the dimly lit hallway, I could feel the walls closing in. What if someone sees us? I asked, glancing back toward the living room. The thought of being caught sent a shiver down my spine. He took a step closer, his eyes searching mine. I don't care about that anymore, he replied firmly. His words hung between us like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. I felt torn between desire and duty. The thrill of our secret was intoxicating, yet the reality of our situation loomed ominously over us. This can't go on, I said, my voice trembling slightly. We're risking everything. He stepped back slightly, as if my words had created an invisible barrier between us. But I love you, he confessed suddenly, his gaze unwavering. His declaration took me by surprise. Love? How could he say that when everything was so complicated? My mind raced with thoughts of family loyalty and societal expectations. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from my sister about a family emergency. My heart sank as I read it. Mom fell and needs help. Let's go, I said abruptly, urgency flooding through me as I turned toward the door. We had to leave this moment behind for now. Reality awaited us outside the bubble we had created. At the hospital, chaos reigned as relatives rushed in and out of rooms. My mother lay pale and still on a stretcher while doctors murmured among themselves in hushed tones. Fear gripped me tightly as we waited for news, each second stretching into eternity. My nephew stood beside me. His presence was both comforting and complicated. "Is she going to be okay?" he asked quietly, worry etched across his face. I wished I could reassure him but felt equally uncertain myself. "I hope so," was all I could muster in response. Hours passed before a doctor finally emerged with an update. "She has a concussion but should recover." Relief washed over me momentarily until reality set back in. This wasn't over, it would never be over. Once home again later that night, exhaustion weighed heavily on me like a thick blanket suffocating every thought of what had transpired earlier with him. As I settled into bed beside my husband, who had been oblivious to everything, I couldn't shake off the feeling that things were spiraling out of control. The next day brought more family obligations. Everyone wanted to check on Mom's condition or share their opinions on how to handle things moving forward. Amidst this chaos, my nephew sent me a text, "We need to talk again." My stomach twisted at the thought of facing him after everything that had happened. Later that week at another family gathering, a barbecue at my brother's house, I saw him across the yard surrounded by cousins laughing heartily while flipping burgers on the grill. Forcing myself not to look too longingly at him was harder than it should have been. Each smile exchanged between us ignited memories too vivid to ignore. "Are you okay?" he asked softly when we found ourselves alone for just a moment again amidst all this noise surrounding us. The clinking glasses and sizzling meat somehow distant now from what mattered most between us. "I'm fine," I lied instinctively, though inside turmoil brewed once more like an impending storm readying itself for release without warning or mercy whatsoever. "We need clarity," he urged gently yet firmly, as if sensing every internal struggle within me battling against itself relentlessly. Duty versus desire playing out endlessly without resolution ever truly coming forth, despite how much time passed by slowly ticking away, each second filled with uncertainty looming overhead, threatening collapse upon all fronts involved here today. But just then another relative approached, unexpectedly breaking whatever fragile moment we'd shared moments before, leaving nothing behind except lingering questions unanswered hanging heavy above heads like storm clouds gathering, darkening skies threatening rain down upon all below, caught unaware, unprepared for what lay ahead, waiting patiently, lurking just beyond sight somewhere, waiting quietly, hidden away until called forth finally when least expected, catching everyone off guard completely. Unprepared, ready, strike without mercy whatsoever. I felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down on me as the family gathering buzzed around us. The laughter and chatter of relatives blurred into a distant hum, my mind racing with thoughts of what had just transpired. My heart was a chaotic mix of exhilaration and dread, knowing how precarious our situation had become. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. The sincerity in his voice only deepened my internal conflict. I nodded, trying to mask the turmoil within me. I needed to focus on the upcoming family vacation. It was supposed to be a time for bonding, not unraveling. As I prepared for the trip, my husband surprised me with a new beach bag filled with sunscreen and towels. "I thought this would be perfect for our getaway," he said, smiling wide, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I forced a smile in return, but inside I felt hollow. How could I enjoy this vacation when my heart was tethered to someone else? The night before our departure, I stared at the packed bags in our living room, each one representing a facade I had carefully crafted over the years. My phone buzzed with a message from him. "Can we talk when we get there?" My breath caught in my throat. Did he truly understand what was at stake? On the drive to the island, silence hung heavily between my husband and me. He fiddled with the radio while I gazed out at passing scenery. The familiar sights of home now felt like a distant memory. The closer we got to the island house, the more anxious I became about facing him again in such an intimate setting. Upon arrival, family members were already buzzing about unpacking and settling in. The air was thick with anticipation as laughter echoed through the beachfront house. Yet beneath that surface cheer was an undercurrent of tension that seemed to coil tighter around us all as we exchanged pleasantries. During dinner that evening, someone brought up local legends about past family vacations gone awry on this very island. "Did you know some families never returned?" one cousin joked lightly, but his tone turned serious as eyes darted around the table nervously. That comment hung over us like an ominous cloud. Was it merely a joke or something more? Later that night, as everyone settled into their rooms, I found myself standing alone on the porch overlooking the ocean waves crashing against the shore. The salty breeze brushed against my skin like an unwelcome reminder of all that was unresolved inside me. Just then, he appeared beside me silently, his presence both comforting and terrifying. "I've been thinking," he began cautiously, his voice barely rising above the sound of waves crashing below us. "About what we want." He looked deeply into my eyes as if searching for answers hidden within them. I took a deep breath and responded softly yet firmly, "We can't keep doing this." As those words left my lips, they felt heavy with finality, a decision made amidst swirling emotions that threatened to consume us both. Before he could respond further, my husband stepped out onto the porch looking for me. His face lit up when he saw us together but quickly shifted into concern upon noticing our tense expressions. "Everything all right?" he asked casually but with an edge of suspicion. "Just talking," I replied quickly before turning back toward him, my heart racing at being caught in this moment again. As we retreated back indoors to join our family gathered around board games and drinks, I couldn't shake off that feeling of impending doom looming over us all like dark storm clouds ready to burst open any moment now. The next day unfolded with laughter and games on the beach under bright sunshine, a stark contrast to what brewed beneath our surface interactions. Yet every shared smile felt like another thread binding me tighter into this web of secrecy. Each laugh echoed hollowly within me as if mocking my internal struggle. That evening during dinner preparations at sunset, golden rays spilling across faces, I overheard snippets of conversation from family members discussing plans for tomorrow's outing to explore nearby caves rumored to hold treasures long forgotten beneath their depths. I turned toward him instinctively, his expression mirrored mine, curiosity mixed with trepidation about what lay ahead if we ventured deeper into these uncharted waters together once again. Suddenly one relative leaned over conspiratorially whispering about how some locals believed those caves were haunted by past visitors lost forever within their dark embrace, a ghostly warning echoing through time meant perhaps just for us. As laughter erupted around me once more accompanied by clinking glasses filled with wine flowing freely, my heart raced knowing full well that whatever choice lay ahead would come at a price far greater than either of us could foresee. The night drew on filled with moments both tender yet fraught, old memories intertwined seamlessly among new ones forged under starry skies overhead while shadows danced just out of sight waiting patiently. The island air was thick with anticipation, the salty breeze mingling with the scent of barbecued shrimp wafting from the grill. I felt a strange mix of excitement and dread as I watched my family gather around the table, laughter echoing off the nearby waves. My nephew stood a little apart, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for something, or someone. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, stepping closer to me. His voice was low, almost drowned out by the chatter of relatives. I nodded, but my heart pounded in my chest. The weight of our past hung between us like a heavy fog. I could see that he had grown more confident over the years, yet something about him still felt achingly familiar. Just then, my husband called out from across the patio. "Hey, Can you help me with this? He waved me over to assist with the drinks. There was an urgency in his tone that made me pause. The moment slipped away as I turned to join him, leaving my nephew standing there, disappointment etched on his face. As I poured drinks into glasses, I caught snippets of conversation around me, old family stories mixed with laughter and some lighthearted teasing about childhood antics. But beneath it all lay an undercurrent of tension that only seemed to grow stronger as we settled into dinner. My husband's attempts at humor fell flat. He seemed more interested in his phone than engaging with anyone else. Suddenly, my nephew stood up and cleared his throat. "I have something to say," he announced, drawing everyone's attention. My heart raced again as I braced myself for what might come next. "I've decided to stay on the island longer than planned," he continued, looking directly at me as if searching for a reaction. The room fell silent for a moment before chatter resumed, but it felt different now, charged with unspoken words and hidden meanings. My husband glanced at me sharply, sensing something in the air that I couldn't quite name. "That's great," he said flatly without looking up from his phone. As dinner progressed, old wounds were reopened during conversation about family matters, past grievances resurfacing like ghosts refusing to be laid to rest. It was uncomfortable, laughter turned into awkward silences too often for my liking. After dessert was served and plates cleared away, an unexpected guest arrived at our rented beach house, a distant cousin I hadn't seen in years who brought along their own drama and baggage. "I thought this would be a relaxing getaway," she exclaimed dramatically as she entered through the door with her arms full of bags. "Perfect timing," my husband muttered under his breath while rolling his eyes. The atmosphere shifted again. It felt like we were all walking on eggshells now. As night fell and everyone began to disperse into smaller groups or retreat into their rooms, I found myself alone outside on the porch overlooking the ocean's dark expanse. My nephew joined me moments later, leaning against the railing beside me while staring out into the waves crashing rhythmically against the shore. "Did you mean what you said earlier?" I asked quietly after a long silence stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm filled with uncertainty. He turned toward me slowly. There was intensity in his gaze that sent shivers down my spine. "You know I did." His voice was firm yet soft enough to make my heart ache. Before I could respond further or even process what that meant for us now, both of us caught up in this tangled web of emotions. A rumble echoed through the air followed by flashes of lightning illuminating dark clouds gathering ominously above us. "Looks like a storm is coming," he said lightly but didn't look away from my face. "I hope it doesn't ruin everything," I replied half-heartedly while feeling a sense of dread settle deep within me, a premonition that whatever happened next would change everything irrevocably. In that moment, just as thunder cracked loudly overhead signaling an approaching tempest, we both felt a shift. The realization that our lives had been altered forever by choices made in secrecy and desire now hanging precariously over us like those storm clouds threatening rain. And then it hit, the first drops falling steadily onto our skin before turning into a torrential downpour that forced us both inside hurriedly amidst laughter fading away into chaos around us.